Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, I'm never upset for the reasons I think. This is based on lesson 5 from A Course in Miracles, and you don't have to be a student of A Course in Miracles, it's just that is such a powerful lesson. Actually, I've heard that the two most powerful lessons from the Course would be number 5, I'm never upset for the reasons I think, and number 34, I could see peace, or I choose to see peace instead of this. These are two very powerful lessons because it leads us to a place of taking total responsibility of the fact that the way I feel has nothing to do with what appears to be happening in the world of appearance. Meaning that I cannot blame anyone or anything for the way I am feeling. So, if we ask ourselves, why am I upset right now? Always the mind is going to project an excuse and it's going to find something or someone to blame. In other words, if this person behaved in a particular way, I would be at peace. If these people would do what I want, I would be at peace. If the world was the way I wish it was, I would be at peace. Interestingly enough, the world is as it is, people behave the way they do, but the only thing that actually can cause upset on me, first of all, at this level of a surface, so to speak, is the thoughts that I am believing about the event, okay? So whatever thoughts I am believing about this person or this situation or whatever the case may be, that is what seemed to be the cause or is the cause of the way I'm feeling, but I'm overlooking that and I am making believe the thought that suggests that the reason I am upset is because what the world is doing or what they are doing. Okay, now why did I say that's on the surface? Because if you look beneath that, the only reason I could get upset is because I have forgotten who I am. When I believe I'm this constriction, this separate entity, the moment I believe that, everything that I do is to try to protect this sense of identity. And all thoughts and everything is conditioned to try to bring pleasure to this sense of identity, avoidance whatever seems to be not pleasurable, and always trying to make sure that my needs are satisfied and everything. Everything has to do with me, you see? So then when someone can threat or something, whatever the case may be, puts a threat in that, immediately I go into defense mode and I begin to blame, point fingers, all because I am overlooking who or what I am. Because we or me or I as consciousness, which again, that's just one word, cannot be affected by any of the movement that may be taking place in the appearance. In other words, the space in which everything seems to appear cannot be affected by the movement. But when there's identification with the movement, because I have overlooked the fact that I am the space, in other words, the fact that I am, of course, then it seems very convincing as though there's reason as to why should I feel the way I do. You see? Now, when we look at lesson 34, I could see peace instead of this, or I could choose peace instead of this. In a sense, what that lesson is pointing to is that there's another way of looking this seeming experience. You see? And the looking I'm pointing to is not about judging the experience, is that if I let go of all the judgment, if I just recognize that I know nothing, now I am seeing it clearly rather than the way I was seeing it before, which was not seeing, was judging. You see? So when peace becomes the most important thing in our life, because that is the prerequisite, then what happens is that we develop, or there's a thermostat that is developed through us, in which anything that seems to be a threat to that peace, immediately it's a red flag, it's a signal that allows me to remember to go back again to, wait a minute, I am upset because I think I'm a separate entity. I am upset because I believe I'm separate from the source, that this world of appearances is something separate from me. And when I can go back again and remember, wait a minute, I am, and rest in the I am, is like putting the mind or the thought system under the guidance, so to speak, of life itself. So basically what we're doing here is just looking, is learning how to look. Yes, there seems to be feelings, sensations, and all this very convincing. I'm aware of that. That's what I said. This is not necessarily easy, although it's very simple. Because if you look at your life right now, the only problem is that you believe you're this you who's looking at your life. But in reality, you simply are. And we're pointing to the fact that I am. And the question that always arises, how do I function in the world if I sit in the I am? No, you don't sit in the I am. I am is what is always. Right now, you're being while you are listening to this information. The sense of existence, the recognition of the I am has not been lost. You see? Difference, however, is that we're beginning to notice how the I am seems to be overshadowed by the content of the mind, by the thoughts that appear. By the way, mind is a thought, so, but again, just limitation of language. When you begin to look at that, that is a huge step. Because yeah, upset seems to come up, thought seems to come up, but now there's an awareness that I am, and I can rest in the I am. And notice that from that new frame of looking, actions are going to happen anyhow. It's not that you're not going to take action because you never took any action. You're not the doer. It just so happens that the frame of mind from which the action is taking place is very different than the frame of mind from an action that is motivated by fear takes place. You follow? We're basically learning or relearning or unlearning, so to speak, the way we have lived to realize that there's another way of living in the world that is not of it. That would be lesson 155 of the course. But again, you don't have to be a student of the course because this is a universal lesson and we can put it to the test right now. Okay? Right now, all that there is what is. And at all times, all that there is what is. That is just a fact. You cannot negate that. You cannot say, I am not. You can say that life is not happening. This is it. All that there is what is. That cannot be negated. Now the problem, like I said before, is that this isness is overshadowed by whatever thoughts are appearing. And even when there are sensations, it seems to add a new texture to it. But still, all that there is what is. That never stop being. Now we're learning to see the thoughts for what they are, just simply thoughts. We're learning to feel the sensations, see them for what they are, just simply contractions. But I remain as I am. This is not theoretical. This is very practical. It's just that we still don't believe that, or we're not having convinced ourselves that life is living itself, and we think that we're the one doing it because there's this thought that says this is who I am and I'm in charge of my life, I'm controlling it and everything. Well, when that belief, which is just a thought by the way, begins to fall apart, then you rest in the fact that I am. And now all we're doing is just observing how, because of conditioning and whatever, thoughts appear, sensations appear, and there's a tendency to change the sensation, to try to control the thoughts or to avoid the thoughts. And now we're just realizing that it's just what it is. We rest in this. And as you continue, trusting the process, you notice how sensations, they come and they go. Some may stay for a little while, but now you know. There's nothing to do about them. Just simply being. Notice how the mind is trying to justify and make sense of this sensation and everything. And now we're going back again to the fact that I know nothing, I am. And you rest in the I am. And you also notice how actions take place. See? And the play unfolds, but now you're more like a witness rather than thinking you're the protagonist. So once again, are you not being? This is existence, pure existence, within the context in which we appear to be. See? You see that you're being right now? And notice how thoughts appear, sensations seem to appear, and yet you remain as you are. Well, that I amness never suffers. That I amness is not concerned about future or past, because that I amness is not identified with thoughts. That I amness is in which thought seems to appear and disappear. And you're resting in the fact that I am. You see? That's why the fourth book of the series, I am, in which everything seems to appear and disappear. And the fifth book, I am, actually call it am, just to keep it as simple as possible, because this is all there is. So once again, don't take anything I'm saying, don't take my word as the absolute truth. You need to do your own investigation. You need to put it to the test. Otherwise, you're taking me like somebody who's a teacher who knows and everything, and then you get lost again. I'm just an instrument. Well, I am a seeming appearance like you are, in which information is coming through. Now you need to put it to the test to see if the information actually works for you. And if it doesn't work, discard it and find something else, and that's fine. But this is how it's expressing through this instrument, or this seeming me, according to the experience that life has led me to live. So I'm just kind of paying it forward. That's all I'm doing. Does it serve you? Great. You feel that it doesn't serve you? That's fine too. Because I'm not concerned about what you may think or not about this. I'm just simply, once again, just offering this because that's how life is teaching me how to live. That's how I'm living my life. And well, there's a naturalness of wanting to share. That's just the way it happens, until life decides that there's no longer a reason for me to share it in this manner. So once again, whenever something happens, situation, whatever the case may be, and you find yourself reacting, remember, I'm never upset for the reasons I think, because the only reason I think I can get upset is because I forgot who I am. And now, from this point, again, I could choose peace, or I can see peace instead of this. And how can I see peace instead of this? Which that will be the thermostat. It's very simple. By remembering that I know nothing. I don't know what this means. I have no idea of anything. I don't know what the world is the way it is. I don't know why this person is behaving the way it does. I don't know what life is happening the way it is. All I got to remember is that I am. I rest in the I am. That's the love that we're pointing to. And then you may have a realization, oh my God, people don't behave the way they do because it's personal. They behave the way they do because that is how their script is supposed to unfold. So those who behave very harshly or so, then maybe a compassion comes through you, realizing, oh my God, you must be living a very hard life. And it's not because you have chosen it, it's because that's how life is unfolding for you. But I'm here to remind you there's another way of looking at it. And the way you do so is by the example. You see? Because by you resting in the peace that you are, it's kind of like sort of giving permission to everyone to realize that they have another way of looking at life. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to be ready. Remember, there are no others, but within the limitation of language and within this context, that's the word that I have to use. Because in the end, all that there is you. There's no others, there's no world. You only look at your own projections. Not your personal projections, but that which supposedly is dreaming this seeming thing, or whatever the case may be. When identified with the seeming me, with the seeming person, well, it appears as if though the person is projecting, but in reality the projecting comes from that, whatever the case may be. You see? And again, we have to be conscious here, because depends upon the teaching. A Course in Miracles suggests that God does not project anything. This is a projection of the ego, while the Advaita would suggest that God is all there is, so therefore everything has to be God. Let's not get caught up into that, because again, that is not going to help you. Let's go to what can help right now. What can help right now is that right now you are beingness. Now you're choosing. It seems as though you're choosing, as if you have that choice, but again, this is how it's unfolding. So what can I say? Act as if you could choose, right? I'm choosing to see peace instead of this. You see? Resting in this. That's the only thing you're going to treasure for the rest of well, rest, right? In this eternal moment of now. You're gonna treasure that. And when you rest in this, resting in that beingness, just observe life as it unfolding, and you can experience what is referred to as the peace that surpasses all understanding. The world doesn't have to go the way you want to. People doesn't have to behave the way you want to. But now you're more like the observer, because you know that you're always reacting to your thoughts, you're never reacting to the seeming circumstances. And now you go back again and remember, I am. And you rest in that peace. You rest in what is, which is this. You see? This is all pointing to. There's nothing to do, just simply being. And as you feel comfortable resting in this, and you observe how life live itself, then you kind of look at the whole play, but with a calmness, with a smile, so to speak. Not a sarcastic smile or an arrogant smile. It's a way of saying, okay. You see? And now you see how life unfolds through you. You live your life how you're supposed to, and if there's more stuff that needs to be looked at, it'll come up, no problem. But now you know that there's only one answer to every single possibility. And the answer is the same. It's just be. It's not denying, it's not covering up, it's not pretending, it's just honestly being. Right now, are you not being? You see? And you rest in beingness. And now there's no one or nothing to blame. And by not believing the content of the mind, it's obvious that I'm never upset for the reasons I think. And the thermostat that says, I choose peace instead of this, is where you naturally are drawn to. And when conflict seems to come up and whatever, you notice, okay, again, you're not covering up anything. It's not about covering up or whatever, you're just looking. Okay, this is how it feels. And just notice how life unfolds and leads you to deal with that particular experience if it needs to be dealt with in the most appropriate way. You see? That's what is referred to as spontaneous or action. In the meantime, you don't have to be concerned about any of those things. All you need to do is just bring yourself back to this. Now the question is if that's what you want. Because if you want to fix the character, if you want to fix your world, then we're speaking two different we're in two different directions here. It's not about changing anything. Changes happen if they're supposed to. It's about knowing the fact that I am. And you rest in this. And this is all there is. And you're at peace. And well, this is the inspiration that came through. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can become evident.